Mrs. was here. Where were you the night of April 20th?
I was at home.
We have security camera footage that says otherwise.
Fine. I was at school.
What school?
You should know, aren't you a detective?
Not a good one. Help me out here. Answer the question!
Logan High School.
At night.
Yes.
Mrs. was here. Do you frequent schools at night?
It was just one night.
You're avoiding the question.
We have evidence from the scene of the crime that says otherwise.
Guilty. Book 'em, Max.
You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say and anything you will say will be used against you in a court of law. You've all seen this cliche interrogation scene before, but how accurate is it? To answer this, we took on the task of researching criminal interrogation and how it helps solve crimes.
The point of conducting an interrogation is to elicit information from a suspect. This is a very effective method of acquiring information about a crime because it involves the people actually at the scene, eyewitnesses.
However, suspects are not the only people involved in an interrogation. Sometimes, people related to the crime, but not necessarily suspects, are interviewed in order to validate information that the suspect has given or provide additional details.
We interviewed Lieutenant Mark Hatcher from the Santa Clara County District Attorney's Office to learn about criminal interrogation. Lieutenant Hatcher has a degree in criminology from San Jose State, has worked as an FBI agent, and has spent time as a police officer in Santa Clara.
In the broad context of trying to elicit information from some other person, there are a variety of ways to do it. Depending upon the nature of it, it may be better to have somebody close to that person who you know is motivated to help you because they have a pending criminal charge, or this person who's the target of the investigation did something awful to them and now they're looking for a way to, or they feel bad about what happened to somebody, and so they want to make sure that person gets put away for a long time,
Right.
What have you. In other aspects, you're going to be doing more what I would describe as interviewing as opposed to interrogation.
Okay.
And in that context, there are suspects, there are subjects, and then there are witnesses / victims, right? So a suspect is somebody we believe committed the crime.
Right.
A subject is somebody who we're not sure about their level of involvement or culpability.
Mm-hmm.
So they're going to be a subject. We're going to continue to investigate them and talk to people or talk to them. And then over time, as we develop enough information, they fall into one of these columns ultimately.
Okay, so the subject may not necessarily be the person that you believe committed the crime, or maybe not even involved, but just involved with doing the crime, but just in the general sense of the things surrounding the crime, they're involved.
To a degree, yes. And so what we're really talking about are people who may have helped, say, get a gun for a robbery,
Okay.
or may have helped dispose of a body after a murder.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't there at the event,
Right.
but they participated in some way, or they had some intimate knowledge that puts them sort of at jeopardy.
You've probably heard someone say, "I plead the fifth," in order to get out of giving a police officer information. The person is referencing the Fifth Amendment in the Bill of Rights, where a person is allowed to remain silent if the information they have would incriminate themselves.
In a formal interview, suspects are read their Miranda rights. You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. Lieutenant Hatcher told us that, depending on how and where the interrogation is done, he may not need to read them their rights.
For example, maybe you're a suspect in a case, and I'm going to interrogate you, and I may even decide to arrest you. But if I arrest you or you're in custody, I have to read you your rights. So there was this custodial or non-custodial, custodial being that you're in custody, non-custodial meaning that you're free to leave. There are times when I need to interview a homicide suspect and they haven't been arrested yet. We just really think they did it, and we need to talk to them. But we think they're pretty savvy and pretty smart, and what I don't want to do is read them their rights, because they might immediately just invoke that privilege, and then I can't talk to them. So I want to talk to them in a non-custodial environment.
Interrogation can be carried out in various locations and places. The setting and location itself can affect how well the interrogation goes.
Okay, so how accurate is a movie stereotype to like an actual interrogation? You know, is it like a dark room? And, like,
No, it's actually not. It may have been that way many years ago, and there may be a perception of that by people who think they're going to be going into some interrogation and there's going to be this scene, right? But what I found is that interrogations can happen anywhere.
Yeah, almost just more of like a conversation of like somebody on like the street corner or something like. Maybe.
It could be a consensual encounter like that. It could be going to their house. It could be going to their work. It could be walking up to them on the sidewalk as they leave their house to get into their car, because they leave at 8 o'clock every morning, right? So that's when you're going to go and make contact. There are interview rooms that have cameras or what have you, and depending upon who's being interviewed, the environment might be different. So there might be a room dedicated to child interviews. So you have toys and a comfortable place to sit and a place to play, and certain toys that would allow you to introduce certain questions by just playing with the toy and using the toy as a question.
Sometimes interrogators will use untrue but plausible information in interrogations in order to make suspects more inclined to give information.
This quality is known as suggestibility and is often a very important part of many interrogations. However, using suggestibility can also become dangerous because people could be pushed to give fake or inaccurate details in response.
Interrogators use a variety of techniques in order to elicit information from someone who may not be cooperating very well. The good cop, bad cop scene, perhaps the most well-known, is where there are two interrogators and one acts in a very harsh, condescending, maybe even threatening manner. The other is more gentle and kind to the suspect and pretends to disagree with the other interrogator. The object is to get the suspect to tell the nice interrogator information.
Another common technique is when interrogators use the suspect's egos to get them to give information. They may continually compliment the suspect and pretend to admire them so that they are more willing to talk. But on the other hand, they may tear down the suspect and, as an attempt to salvage their self-esteem, the suspect may confess to something.
Lieutenant Hatcher confirmed during his interview that these techniques are indeed used by interrogators. The Eighth Amendment protects U.S. citizens from cruel or unusual punishment. Therefore, interrogators are not allowed to use violent or physically painful methods to extract information.
Lieutenant Hatcher reminded us that interrogating people under stressful or uncomfortable situations might simply cause the suspect to give false information, just to be able to leave the interrogation. So violent or scary interrogation tactics are used sparingly.
One issue is that you can't go overboard. And so you see things in movies where it's dark and there's the flashlight, and they might do something rather aggressive with the person, or slap them around, or throw a chair, or what have you. The issue you have with that is that it creates a scene that would suggest the person potentially was intimidated. And when people are intimidated, they don't necessarily tell the truth. They tell you what you want to hear, so you stop intimidating them. And that's true for everything from what I'm describing up to interrogating terrorist prisoners in Afghanistan, for example. So the question is, how do you go about doing this? My preferred approach was not doing it in a jail cell or in that kind of a scene, finding a comfortable place like a break room or part of a cafeteria, somewhere that's out of that context. You don't have to be handcuffed. When I come into the room, I'm going to make eye contact you, I'm going to come over, I'm going to greet you just like I would if I went to your house for somebody's barbecue. And I would introduce myself, and I would make it very respectful and very matter of fact, and allow him to feel as though he is peer, right?
The validity of information acquired in an interrogation can be checked by either cross-referencing it with information from other witnesses or suspects, or by subjecting the suspect to a polygraph test.
It's important to note that an interrogation may not provide all information needed to solve a crime or put someone in jail. Evidence from a crime scene and other facts must be used in order to prove someone is guilty beyond reasonable doubt.